Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and Commander, this is the SITREP, the Situation Report. And for those that are not familiar with DPA, everything that is mapped on this mapping, which you can find on the Defense Politics Asia website, you can also find the link in the description below. Everything is sourced. I don't make things up. Everything there's a source for it. So I don't make shit up. So this this is going to be this is the most neutral platform and most objective platform on reporting of the Ukraine war. So hopefully you will press the like and subscribe button. And we're going to start out with some frontline changes report. There is still a few more frontline changes since the frontline changes that was published around 10 hours ago. So there's frontline changes over at Uruzhaine, over at the, where's this front? Avdiivka Front, Krinky, and Oskil. So there's a few frontline change. So we go into Uruzhaine first. There's Donetsk Front, not Avdiivka Front. Also at Uruzhaine, there is some frontline change. So previously we have reported that the Russians claim to have taken and straightened the front line over at Uruzhaine as they continue to put pressure on the Ukrainians. However, in the twist of fate, the Ukrainian forces has been geolocated to be attacked in the southern part of Uruzhaine. This invalidate the Russian claims, showing that the Ukrainians actually retain more control over the residential area in the southern part of Uruzhaine. So, which means that the Russian claim can only exert to only this field, which clearly no one is going to be there. So this is the current situation, the frontline change over at Uruzhaine. There's another frontline change over at Krinky. So this over at Kherson Front, the Ukrainians have continued to hold this beachhead over at this southern part of the Dnipro River. And there is a Ukrainian video showing that they have launched a FPV drone attack, of a first-person view drone attack against Russian forces at this location, which means that the Russian forces have actually at least taken part of this area back at Krinky, because clearly they can infiltrate there, means the Ukrainians are not there, and the fact that the attack is by a drone, not by infantry, it's not a skirmish, means that the Ukrainians cannot be there at all, which also invalidates Surya Map's assertion, and I'm not sure who others, that the Ukrainian forces have actually attacked into Kozachi Lahire in the migration from Krinky to Kozachi Lahire. This is actually inaccurate. I already mentioned in the previous reports that this is very unlikely, and that the footage and the evidence that he used was the flag at Kozachi Lahire. And I mentioned before, this is not the first time the Ukrainians planted flag with drones. So the fact that no infantry is saw at that geolocation means that it cannot be Ukrainian troops over there. No, if you look at the Russians, when they raise a flag, there's always infantry or soldiers or officers raising that flag and showing their physical presence. The Ukrainians, when they show only the flag, those are mostly only planted by drones, and it's also shown by themselves that they use drone to plant flags. So this just to disturb the Russians. They do not have a real presence over there. The last frontline change is over at Oskil, over at the Avdiivka Front, and there is some major frontline change over at Oskil. Russian forces geolocated at this position, which means that the Russians have taken massive positions over on the eastern outskirts of Oskil, which means that the front line is getting closer and closer, with the Ukrainians probably still holding some of these tree lines, holding back the Russians. There is a major entrenchment around here, so it's not going to be an easy capture for the Russians if they are able to continue to advance. So these are the frontline changes report, and so we'll go on to the strategic and tactical reporting, the actual situation report. And I also want to highlight that I will be clipping the frontline changes report to be published separately, because some people just don't click on the SITREP. So please be understanding. The algorithm is broken by the YouTube algorithm is broken, so we just have to make do. And it's just like, I'm fighting a war, just like the Ukrainians are fighting against Russians against an uphill battle. This is what DPA have to face. It is what it is, and so I will just continue to fight on. So we go to move into the strategy and tactical reporting, and first thing first, we go into the Kharkiv Front. So as per previously, I want to use this mapping so for the SITREP and because we can see the relief mapping, but of course when it's needed, because we want to see the settlements and some of this terrain in real, in satellite imagery, we will just switch here and there. Over at the Kharkiv Front, as usual, there is a multiple sectors around here. The Russian forces over at this Kozachi Lopan or Zolochiv sector have launched another attack on Kharkiv. So this is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry in the today's report, the latest report today, and there's a shelling reported at Konstantinivka. So the current situation remains like this. There's still no news regarding Avdiivka. It just felt like nothing is happening over there. There was a misreporting by Ryba. So we will continue to monitor geolocation of Lancer attack on a Ukrainian truck just off Duvanka, and there's also another geolocation of a Lancer hitting a multiple launch rocket system of Zolochiv. So this shellings and attacks just have a sense that the Russians wanted to open yet another sector to capture Udi and Kozacha Lopan. This Udi and Kozacha Lopan was previously the Russia's stronghold when the Kharkiv Front previously existed. So I got a feeling that maybe the Russians, once they find a good opportunity, they might try to launch an attack again. So over at this Lyptsi sector, so this is a Lyptsi sector, and this is Lyptsi. So the Russian forces continue to attack in the area of Lyptsi. In the previous either the SITREP or it could be the briefing, I have mentioned that there's a high chance that the Russians are no longer over in the northern part of Lyptsi, and indeed I'm now proven correct, because my analysis is correct because of the geolocation. So based on the geolocation of Russian airstrikes on Ukrainian position, which means that at least these two positions that has already been retaken by the Ukrainian forces, as these are listed as strongholds getting airstrike by the Russian forces. And according to the Russian Defense Ministry, they also mentioned about fighting at Kliboke, and this is consistent with this development that the Ukrainians are now on the counter to recapture Kliboke, and the Russians are now nowhere close to this position. So for those that don't really like this view, I can show you, this is the settlement now it looks like. So the Ukrainians have taken most of this location. They are now pushing out. But however, according to the Ukrainians, the Russians are still attacking. I think that this is just projection. They are projecting their own attack as Russian attacks. And this actually plays into whatever the Russians wanted anyway, because this is like I mentioned before, the Kharkiv offensive has always been just a diversion. Right at the first day, even before the Kharkiv offensive even happened, I already mentioned before that it makes no sense for the Russians to actually launch a Kharkiv offensive to capture the Kharkiv city. And if you can look at the situation around here, the Ukrainians managed to take the high ground. There's a 200-meter height around here. So this high ground currently is under Ukrainian control after they probably overrun it in a counterattack. Russian forces now airstriked it. So the Russians probably still have other high grounds around here, probably along these ridges, overlooking this river. I don't think the Russians are on the other side of the river. It don't make sense. It's just not possible to cross over to make a safe defensive position. So you can see the current situation around the different mapping does different things. You can see the forest much more clearly. So we will continue to monitor the situation over at this sector. There's also shelling being reported at Rushki Tishki. I haven't seen this name for a long time, Rushki Tishki. So anyway, there's some shelling around here. It's like meeting an old friend, long time. We haven't met for 2 years. It's like, oh, it's you. I remember you, during the Kharkiv Front when it was still known as the Happy Front. So yeah, not so happy right now. So over at this Zaporizhzhia sector, it now has expanded over to the Ternova region. So according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, on the 26th of May, Russian forces have attacked Ternova, or at least in the region of Ternova. This might be a possibility that the Russians have taken Ibipske, or it could be the Russians actually launched an attack across the border from Sereda into Ternova. So there is not a lot of information regarding this other than just a mention of the battle at the village of attack towards Ternova. So we just have to wait and see whether there's further information about this. There is a geolocation of a Lancet hitting a Ukrainian tank at the Ternova, and I'm not sure if this is what the Ukrainian Defense Ministry is talking about. So like they repelled a Lancet by hitting its tank on the Lancet. There's a possibility. They're throwing a tank at the Lancet definitely will destroy the Lancet. So fighting reported at Zaporizhzhia again on the 26th of May. This according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry is starting to get a little hard to imagine that Zaporizhzhia is still not captured by the Russian forces, but no, we do not know what we do not know, so we just have to continue to wait. Maybe the Ukrainians there's a 7 men, or 4 men, like Helldiver, 4 superheroes holding back Zaporizhzhia, against the onslaught of orcs with shovels. So it is a heroic stand over at Zaporizhzhia. I'm not sure. So maybe that's the case. Over at the Voschansk sector, fighting continues to be raged over at Voschansk. There is a geolocation of Russian forces over at this corner along the highway, confirming Russian presence at this region of the city. So I'm not sure if this view has any meaning. It's not a lot. You simply see the river better at the Voschansk River. So it's important to note that there is a river there. The river dictates the tactics around here. So otherwise, there's heavy clashes around here. Ukrainian Defense Ministry, Russian Defense Ministry both reported Russians are attacking, whilst the Russians in today's report talk about Ukrainian counterattack. So the Ukrainians are probably attacking through this salient around here. They're trying to fight back the Russians, whilst the Russians are trying to expand control in this region here. So we will just continue to monitor. It's very hard to interpret the situation right now because there's a lot of fog of war, and urban warfare is going to be slow if both sides are very committed. So just like the Battle of Bakhmut, Battle of Mariupol, is all Battle of Popasna is all very slow because when two sides are very engaged. They're gonna take a long time in the bedroom. So over at the Kupyansk front, Russian forces are currently attacking in multiple directions in Sinkivka, Petropavlivka, and Ivanivka region, and towards Stepova, Novoselivka. According to the Ukrainians, they say that the situation over at Petropavlivka is very tense. Whatever that's supposed to mean. So that is the situation. There is major news, although, in this area here. Ivanivka is now captured by the Russian forces. This is reported by both Ryba and the Russian Defense Ministry. And based on the Russian mapping, the front line now looks like this, with the Russians taking the rest of Ivanivka. After the initial report in the previous SITREP that the Russians have taken the southern most of Ivanivka and the northern part of Khyslivka. So now the battle is moving towards Stepova, Novoselivka, as the Russians continue to press on their attack. Stepova, Novoselivka is a very small place, so I don't expect this to hold very long unless the Russians want to relax again. So that's all from the Kupyansk front. We're moving on. In the Svatove front, there is a multiple fighting around this area here. There's fighting reported at Berestove, Stemetkivka. There is some frontline change south of this location over at not sure what's that place yet. There's fighting at Novoyehorivka. There is also Ukrainian counterattack at Novovodyan, Russian attack towards Gregivka, and Russian attack towards Druzhelyubivka. So this is the strategic situation over at Svatove, and we go into details over at the Berestove situation. Russian I used the wrong icon. Sorry, my bad. So the Russian Defense Ministry announced on the 26th of May that they have captured Berestove. However, this is disputed by Ryba. And they say, according to Ryba, they say that the footages only that appears online only show partial control. This is the current situation, the current DPA's position as well, that the Berestove is still not fully captured yet. However, just like Ryba's analysis, full capture cannot be ruled out because it is a very small village. It's only left with one more street around here. This is just one more street. So the Russian capture over at Berestove is possible, but we cannot verify this. So tentatively, I can only put this as an announcement because even Ryba cannot confirm it. So we can just have to wait. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry continued to report the fighting around here, but it was not reported on the 27th. So this is very important. So we will just wait and see. Over at Berestove. Further south, there is so this place is called Zaporizhzhia. So there's a geolocation of Russian forces just off Zaporizhzhia, confirming Russian presence around this area, invalidating Ukrainian mapping a little bit. So we will continue to monitor this area here. Further south, Novoyarivka, there is fighting reported here by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 26th. Geolocation just off Kamazinivka, showing the Russian forces are advancing a little bit, not much. So they're just pushing down the tree line. Ukrainians are probably have very strong resistance around this area here. I want to look at the relief mapping. So this is basically the Russians going downhill. So there's this a valley. The Ukrainians clearly have some defensive position probably around here, as this is where the hill is. And they are overlooking this area here. So the Russians pushing down south, down the river towards the valley. Yeah, it's just going to be a little bit dangerous. However, the fighting here was reported as the Ukrainians are reportedly attacking towards Novovodyan. The Ukrainians have the high ground around here, but according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, Russians are still attacking towards Kharkiv. So somehow the Russians are also attacking. This could be the same fighting, the same battle. They are just clashing. I'm not sure. So we just have to wait, because the Ukrainians also say about Lyptsi. So it could be a case where this attack refers to Lyptsi, and the clashes just off Novovodyan is being referred to as Kharkiv. So this makes sense. So we'll just have to continue to wait, and see if anyone can give us a clearer front line. But of course, I will continue to map it as per the locations that the Ukrainians have announced. There's a geolocation of Lancer attack over at Nevsky. So now we are already moving into the Kreminna Front. So let's talk Kreminna Front. So Kreminna Front in the northern flank, Russian forces are attacking towards Nevsky, Novosadove, and Terny. This geolocation is a Lancet attack on the tank. So there's a right in the middle of the settlement. The Russians are pushing, trying to capture to hold this, to take this line. This river, I forgot, Zerebets River, I think. This river is called Zerebets River. Yeah, Zerebets River. So the Russians are trying to get to this line and create a much more stronger defense line. The Ukrainians refuse to let them have it. So not sure if that's the best decision, because the Ukrainians would just stretch their own logistic and make it harder for themselves to defend as well. So whatever it is, this is their strategy. We just have to respect it. Kreminna Front also, there's a fighting reporter at Grigorivka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Ukrainians probably attacking within the forest region. So that's about it along the river region here, not important. So we move into the Siversk Front. So at the Siversk Front, Russian forces are attacking at Bilohorivka, Sperne, towards Vimka, and at Rozdilivka. So this is the current situation here, the strategic situation at Siversk. But in particular, there's a major change over at Bilohorivka. Over at Bilohorivka, Russian forces has been geolocated right in the middle of Bilohorivka settlement. They basically poke something long into Bilohorivka, and however this is not going to be sustainable. If you look at the relief mapping, this is a hill, and there is another bigger knoll over there. There's another high ground, and basically all of them can overlook below Horivka, and they can fire upon the Russians if this is in view. Of course, looking at relief mapping can be, of course, deceiving, because there can be a lot of trees, it can be buildings, and it can be stones, rocks, and that is blocking your views. So sometimes I also don't overdo it in the relief mapping. However, it is just important to note that there is some high ground difference. But if you look from the satellite, you just can't see. It's just a Milky Way. It's just a lot of stars, on the space of green. So that's the current situation. If you zoom in, you can see that it's just a lot of buildings. There's some forest around here. So the Ukrainians have some I'm not sure is this. I don't think these trenches. Yeah, so some rivers, stream system. So the trees will just obstruct your view even if you're on high ground. So that's why don't over. High grounds are important, but sometimes it's not what you imagine. It's not a computer game. So anyway, we move on away from the Siversk Front. We move into the Bakhmut Front. At the Bakhmut Front, there is a few things. I think on top there's nothing. Okay, let's okay, we can put everything in. So Russian forces are attacking not at Novi. They are attacking. Novi is over here. The Russians are not attacking over there. There is, however, geolocation of airstrike at Novi, but otherwise the Russians are actually attacking probably through the forest towards Chasiv. There's attack in the area of Ivaniske. They are still fighting being reported at Klishevka and Andriivka. So the Ukrainians continue to report that the Russians are attacking Klishevka region. There is still no confirmation of Russians' capture of Klishevka or Andriivka. There's no clear evidence that the Russians have taken the high ground around Klishevka. As you can see, this is a massive slope, very, very big slope, 200 meters in the space of like what, 1 kilometer, almost 1 kilometer. So around this distance from the top of the hill to the south is only half a kilometer. So this is a rather steep hill, and the Ukrainians from this position would have a very strong high ground advantage against a village. Without this high ground, Klishevka cannot be held. So there is still no evidence of the Russians taking the high ground like this and taking Andriivka as per claim by the Russian Defense Ministry. Until this moment, DPA's position is that it's still not captured. It's just an announcement by the Russian Defense Ministry, and as you can see, the announcement was on which day? 23rd. We're now on the 27th. 5 days in, we still have no evidence. And Klishevka was on the 22nd. So they are both is 5 days in. So we have to be objective about this. That's why you watch DPA. That's why you follow DPA's mapping. The mapping is now public. It's free. So you can fact check yourself. Fact check yourself. And it's also important to note, differentiate between reporters like me that we are reporting and sources. Sources are the people who have information, they have contacts on the ground. So you cannot refer to a reporter's thing and say that I'm wrong, because the reality is all reporters are looking at the same piece, same sources. So it's just an interpretation. So some interpreted, they just believe the Russian Defense Ministry and say that it's captured, and they say it's captured. Then they just draw the mapping whatever they liked. So for the current situation, for at least this area here, is rather critical that I cannot draw in this way. It's not like in the early days of the war, everything is a blur. Then we try to quickly map out where the Russians are, because nobody know where the Russians are, because they just driving all over Ukraine. Or during the Ukrainian counteroffensive in 2022, where they take massive ground in the Kharkiv region after in the Balaklia offensive, or the Kherson offensive, then we have to draw the border on estimate. But in such a close battle, when things are very, very tense, frontline change are very, very difficult, very, very slow, and we can actually map it more accurately. And that if we start to draw like this and say that it's Russian control, then what's the point? Because that is not corroborated, and then after that you have to roll back. So we try to do our best, and you can also just make it a habit, always fact check. And if you find any people that you have been following, always have their information invalidated. Just stop following the person. Stop consuming fake news. So that's all from the Bakhmut Front. Over the New York Front, at the New York Front, Russian forces are fighting in these two regions. In New York region, of course, it's important to know about New York is that we do not know where the offensive actually is, or the attack is. Is it coming from the east, southeast, or is it from the south? We have no idea. So this is just something that you need to take note. And there is also fighting reported at Oleksandropil on the 26th. So Russians attacking in these two regions. I think these are just probings. Just don't have to take it as an offensive. Just south of the New York, there is a Russian airstrike on the Ukrainian position. I believe these are guided bomb. So we will continue to monitor the situation. Yeah, someone reminded me stop saying that. So I have to remember. Stop monitoring the situation. No. So over at the Avdiivka front, a lot of things happening. So I have to break into half. In the northern flank of the Avdiivka front, Russian forces are pushing towards what's the place called again? Kalinove. At Kalinove, Russians are attacking Novo Oleksandrivka. Ukrainians are counterattacking at Ocheretine and Novo Alexandrivka. So there is a clash around here. Russian forces are making progress towards progress, which is progress towards progress, which is an irony. Then there's an attack in the west of Ocheretine towards Oskil. Ukrainians counterattack at Svatove. Russians are trying to push out as well. Russians are pushing towards Novoselivka, Persha. So this is the strategic situation over at the northern part of the Avdiivka front. And so there is some major changes as well in this region here. The most of these areas here are very stagnant. So I can show you this area here. These are stagnant. And the hot front is over here. This is the hot side. This area here is also cold. So this is the main push. This is actually where the arrow is. So this is where the Russians are pushing, and they are pushing one of the most heavily defended places over in this area here. So there's a lot of frontline changes around the Sokyo region, and now I need to change the mapping to the satellite so you can see the entrenchments. You can see that the Ukrainians have heavy entrenchment around here. There's another one here, another one here at Yevnivka. There's one over here, and the Russians have captured it. Basically taken this heavy entrenchment around here, north of it, and the Russians is now closing towards Sokyo with this geolocation, this frontline change, and they are pushing out of Svatove finally after no reports about clashing over Svatove since weeks already. So Russians are now making progress in this area, but it's going to be super slow. Like I mentioned multiple times already, Sokyo is very heavily defended, so I don't think the Russians are able to make fast progress. It's going to be slow, but it's going to be devastating because Ukrainians know that it's heavily defended, so they will send more men to it, which means that the Russians can take advantage of this logical fallacy that because it's more defendable, so you should defend it, and the Russians can just airstrike and TOS-1 strike or the thermobaric strike it into smithereen or charcoal. So it's extremely sad, but this war. In the southern flank of the Avdiivka front, Russian forces. Okay, we have talked about Novoselivka, Persha. Okay, yeah, we can fit it somewhat a little bit. Okay, Russian forces. After the full capture of Umansky, they continue to try to push out, I guess, in this area, and the Ukrainians are trying to push them back. They are now counterattacking Umansky. Russians are pushing for Yasnobrodivka. The Russians have also announced the capture of Netelove, and the Russian source Ryba has corroborated it through the fact that the Russian forces have raised flags around there. So Netelove is finally under Russian control, at least based on the Russians' information. On the Ukrainian side, they have not acknowledged this yet. So this is merely a Russian claim, but most likely is captured because the front lines has clearly shown that it's mostly taken, and that is very hard for the Ukrainians to have any presence around there. So Russians are still pushing out around this area here. There is still fighting being reported at Netelove according to the Russian sources. basically they finished clearing the settlement there, and Russians are pushing over in the area of Nevelsky. So not sure about the Nevelsky thing. There's not much information. The interesting thing also is that the Ukrainians still have this salient around Nevelsky. There is totally no information for a long time now over the situation in Nevelsky. It's a very flat ground, as you can see. So not much around here, but the Ukrainians are defending it either way. So that's all. We move into the Donetsk Front. So this is the Donetsk Front. At the Donetsk Front, Russian forces are attacking at the battle of Krasnohorivka, Georgievka, towards Paraskoviyevka, Konstantinivka. Ukrainians are continuing their counterattack over at Volodymyrivka. Russians are attacking Staromayorsky, Uruzhany, and Makarivka. So one arrow, another arrow, and another arrow. You can see this is the three main push over at the Donetsk Front. And over at the Krasnohorivka, there is some significant change based on Russian mapping. Russians have taken all of the southern neighborhoods, the residential neighborhoods, according to Russian mapping, and they are advancing in the northeast, trying to flank the north of Krasnohorivka. So, but this is Russian claims. No, this is not corroborated. We will just continue to monitor. If the Russians able to take the northern part, then you can clearly see that this entire the rest of Krasnohorivka will be extremely tense or difficult to hold, which might result in a withdrawal. But yeah, it's still long way from there. It's not going to be so fast. The Ukrainians are very determined on holding Krasnohorivka, so the battle will just go on for quite some time. I believe at least 2 months. So Georgievka, there is still fighting being reported here, despite Russians seem to claim all of it. The situation at the Konstantinivka region or Paraskoviyevka, Novomihailivka region is a bit weird. Russians are pushing Paraskoviyevka. They are pushing towards Konstantinivka. However, we still have reports of fighting at Novomihailivka. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 27th, which is the latest report, I'm not sure where they are referring this. Maybe it's the north. Maybe they're referring to the north of Novomihailivka. So whatever it is, we just wait. Ukrainians, interestingly, really is still pushing Volodymyrivka. So this is 22nd, 25th, 26th. You can see that there is a consistent try from the Ukrainians to push towards Volodymyrivka. Let's just wait. Let's just wait. And I will not say continue to monitor. Russians are pushing Pashestivka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry on the 26th, but no, not on the 27th. So so just a one-off attack around here. Okay, so now Velika Novosilka. The Velika Novosilka situation is a bit interesting. Russians are attacking, and taking the entire western part of Staromayorsky. They are making an attack towards Makarivka. They also supposedly taken the entire southern side, but geolocations have invalidated it, which shows Ukrainians actually counterattack and retake, or actually invalidates Russian claims. So the battle for these twin settlements continue. Russians are still pushing. Ukrainians are very reluctant to give up the settlement. They are trying their best to hold it. Uruzhany and Staromayorsky is very flat right now. It's one of the most bombarded places in the Ukraine war. So we will continue to monitor. You see, I say it again. Yeah. So that's it for this area. And we move into the Zaporizhzhia Front. Zaporizhzhia city. At the Zaporizhzhia Front, there's only news over at the Oskil sector right now. Russian forces are attacking in the area of Robotine and Malatomashka. At the Malatomashka, there is fighting reported on the 26th. The Russians are still trying somehow in this area, but the front line is not clear. There's still some kind of fog of war, so we'll just wait and not monitor. We move into Kherson Front. Also, at the Kherson Front, there is fighting in this area here. Russian forces shelled Vasily, Kyahinka. They're attacking Krinky, and there is a frontline change over at Krinky, with the Russian forces seems to have reduced the zone of control of the Ukrainians, as Russian forces are geolocated over here, getting hit by FPV drones. So Ukrainians are still, holding Krinky for some unknown reasons. So we just wait and see how this develops. And that's it. So this is the SITREP for the day of the situation report for the day of 824 for the 27th of May. Press the like button, subscribe. 35 minutes. No, we are commanders. No, 35-minute report standard. No, that's what you do. No, and I'll see you guys in the next update.